The boy's scream was short, sharp, the kind a mother never forgets. Esther dropped the feed sack where she stood, frozen fingers fumbling, boots slipping on the thin snow crust. As she bolted toward the barn, her heart pounded so hard she didn't hear the wind, didn't feel the sting of ice on her cheeks. Only that scream echoing in her skull like a warning from the earth itself. Silas. The barn door swung open before she reached it. Her youngest, 11-year-old James, stumbled out pale. Breathless, one mitten gone. Mama, Silas fell in. She didn't ask how. Didn't stop. She shoved past him, boots clapping against the packed earth floor until she saw it. Near the back wall, behind the hay bales, a jagged black hole in the floor. And from deep below a faint, muffled cry, alive, alive. Esther threw herself to the edge. The earth radiated an unnatural warmth. She swung her lantern forward. The pit dropped steep 10 feet down, walls clawed raw, dirt damp and dark. Silas's voice rose again, weak, then stronger. Mama, he whispered. She tied the feed rope to a beam, knotted it twice, handed the end to James. You hold it tight. Don't let go unless I say. Then she climbed down into the secret she'd buried beneath this barn months ago. No one had believed her then, not after her husband died, not when she refused to remarry, not when she traded peach canning for clay-backed walls and stone-reinforced foundations. They'd laughed, called her crazy, said she was acting like she planned to live underground. But Esther wasn't storing potatoes. She was building a womb. She called it the belly, a shelter carved in silence, hidden even from her sons. Walls of stacked stone, timber braces, shelves of dried meat, quilts, tools, a small stove in the corner, its flue snaking up through a hidden channel, her husband's old cot, a second bunk made from crates. It smelled of cedar, smoke, and survival. Now, as she pulled Silas into her arms, muddy but unbroken, she lit a second lantern. Let's show James what we've been hiding, she said softly. That night, the storm returned harder than any since '62. While cabins groaned and roofs tore free, the three of them sealed the hatch, lit the stove, and waited. Above, chaos. Below, quiet, warmth, breath. For 3 days, the world froze. When they emerged, half the town was gone. Roofs collapsed, men missing, the preacher's widow found frozen beside her chimney, Bible clutched to her chest. But Esther's barn still stood. Her boys fed, dry, alive. And no one laughed anymore. Instead, they came. Sarah Pinter, widowed and shaking, brought jars of corn and asked for help digging her own shelter. Paul Stroud, the man who once called her digging unseemly, stood at her barn door, hat in hand, his daughter's fingers blackened by frost. Esther didn't gloat. She handed him a hand-drawn plan. Dig east. Wind comes worst from the west. One by one, they came. And Esther dug. Her hands raw, nails black, boots split at the seams. But she didn't stop because something had shifted. The earth wasn't just dirt anymore. It was ally, armor, memory. By spring, the settlers stopped raising cabins. They started digging. Esther's belly grew, not just a room, but a system. A tunnel snaked beneath the pasture to a second hatch hidden in tree roots. A rain catchment barrel fed water through a hollowed log. Smoke diffusers kept flames low and hidden. Her sons learned fast. James braced walls with angled slats. Silas mapped root cellars and sealed food in wax clay pots. This wasn't desperation. It was defiance. Then came the second storm, late autumn. Sudden, brutal, snow fell like a curtain slammed shut. Esther led her boys underground before dusk. By morning, Sarah Pinter's roof had cracked clean through. Esther and James crawled through their tunnel, dug through 5 feet of snow, and pulled Sarah and her baby from the wreckage. Just like that, the belly became more than shelter. It became salvation. That winter, 3 families lived beneath Esther's barn. Children ran through tunnels, laughing. Women stirred stew from dried roots. Oil lamps cast amber light on faces that hadn't known warmth in weeks. The whispers changed. Did you see how she built the flue? She braced those walls like a well turned sideways. Not one bit of food spoiled. The same voices that once said crazy now murmured clever. But not everyone changed. One evening, 3 men arrived, boots crunching, rifles slung. One wore a silver badge from a dead mining town. "We're requisitioning your shelter." The leader said. 12 men freezing up the ridge, Esther, stepped into the snow, co-open, breath fogging between them. "You've got land, build your own hole." "We don't have time." His hand drifted toward his belt, then a sound behind her. The cock of a rifle. 15-year-old James stood in the doorway, his father's lever action aimed steady. Behind him, Paul Stroud, the Pinter boys. The sheriff. No words, just presence. This wasn't just Esther's shelter anymore. It was theirs. The men left without another word, vanishing into the white like ghosts the land rejected. Esther knelt, pressed her palm to the snow-covered earth, listening. Then she went back to work. The belly grew. Arteries. Tunnels stretched toward other barns. New hatches hid under hay bales and collapsed sheds. Sheriff Gatlin rerouted supplies to her slope. Families left baskets of wool, tools, goats at her door. But survival brought new trials. How to breathe when 60 souls crowd one space. How to heal when medicine's gone and wood smoke is the only cure. Esther solved each. Charcoal-filtered air vents, pine needle syrup for coughs, ash-washed hands to stop rot, and her ledger once her husband's fence post. Journal became gospel. Every tunnel mapped, every meal counted, every life recorded. They called her matriarch, not out of pity, out of awe. Then came the third winter, slow, silent, poisoned. Ash fell from the mountains, snow turned bone dry. Creeks froze not from cold, but from stillness. Cattle died standing, people vanished. Families who once mocked her now sent sons begging for entry, offering land, tools, even daughters in marriage. Esther turned none away, but she made them dig. "You want shelter? Earn it." By spring, over 60 souls had crawled into the earth and walked out alive. Above, the surface lay in ruins. Cabins collapsed, wells cracked, even the church bell toppled. Its rope coiled like a dead snake. But beneath Esther's barn, life thrived. 7 tunnels, for entry points, 2 stoves. One woman who kept the ledger. Then Hope. A baby born underground, pink-cheeked, breathing. They named her Hope, and no one laughed, because by then, they all knew to be born in the belly wasn't hiding. It was being willed into life. But darkness lingered. Elias Harper, a blacksmith, turned mad with grief after losing his daughters, watched from his ruined cabin when Sheriff Gatlin disappeared. His horse found near Harper's shed. The belly braced for war. Harper sealed the wells, blocked the creeks, sent a boy with a cut tongue and a charcoal note. "They're burning us." Esther didn't flee. She dug outward through solid rock, past Harper's ridge, toward clean water. When pickaxes shattered on flint, she didn't quit. She sent James and Silas up with kerosene, pipe, and a wooden dowel drilled straight through. Then she lit the wick. The earth groaned, a dull blast. A shiver. Then silence. Until James's voice echoed down the tunnel. "Mama, it's open." They poured into the moonlight, coughing, blinking, stepping onto ground untouched by ash. Trees still green, stream still clear, Harper's fire cold. Esther stood at the ridge, looking down at the steaming mouth of her shelter, a black wound in the hillside, pulsing with heat and breath. She placed her palm on the earth and whispered, "Let them call me desperate again." Years passed. The belly became Barnhold, named in thread on a wool blanket by Sarah Pinter. Home you earned, not inherited. Esther's hair turned silver. Her steps slowed, but every week, she still tapped the ceiling beams, still listened to the sigh of vents, still touched the floor like it held answers. One morning, James asked, "Think we'll ever go back?" All the way up, she looked at the fire. "Do you think we ever left?" He replied, "I think we just moved the town down." She smiled. Good answer. She died in spring in her sleep, in the belly she built, wrapped in the blanket stitched, with Barnhold buried in the hollow she once feared. Rye planted over her grave. James became keeper. Silas, builder. The ledger gospel. And whenever a child asked who saved them, who carved a town from dirt and scorn and turned it into a living sanctuary, they told the truth. Her name was Esther DeWitt, and they called her desperate until every last cabin failed and hers stood warm.